Madison Jameson was the kind of girl who could blend into the background without anyone noticing. She sat at the back of her high school classrooms, spoke only when asked, and spent most of her free time sketching in her notebook rather than mingling in the cafeteria. At 16, she was soft-spoken, pale, and painfully shy, and that made her a target. To the loud kids who thrived on attention, Madison was easy prey. She didn't fight back, didn't snap witty comebacks, and didn't even tell teachers when they went too far. For months, she endured whispers, mocking laughter, and cruel jokes that chipped away at her confidence. But none of the bullies knew the truth about her father. Commander Nathan Jameson wasn't just an ordinary dad, he was a retired Navy SEAL. To the world, he was a decorated hero who had led missions overseas, a man built of iron discipline and unshakable courage. To Madison, however, he was simply Dad, the man who made her pancakes on Sunday mornings, who knelt beside her bed to pray when nightmares kept her awake, and who reminded her daily that kindness was never weakness. Nathan knew his daughter carried her mother's gentle heart, and while he admired it, he also worried. He had taught men how to endure torture and survive ambushes, but he realized he had never truly taught his own daughter how to stand tall in the face of cruelty. That chance was about to come in a way neither of them expected. The breaking point came on a gray Monday afternoon in the cafeteria. Madison had gathered the courage to wear a floral dress, something different from her usual plain hoodies, hoping maybe someone would notice her in a good way. Instead, it drew the attention of Kayla and her group of friends, the self-proclaimed queens of the school. They strutted up to Madison's table and with cruel smirks began mocking her dress, calling her grandma and farm girl. When Madison tried to walk away, one of them tripped her, sending her tray crashing to the floor, food splattering across her dress as the entire cafeteria erupted in laughter. Her cheeks burned, her hands trembled, and for the first time, tears slipped down her face where everyone could see. That humiliation was a wound she carried home, and when her father asked what was wrong that evening, she could no longer hide it. Nathan listened in silence, his jaw tightening as his daughter sobbed into his shoulder. Every instinct inside him wanted to storm into that school and deal with the bullies himself, but years of discipline told him this wasn't about revenge. It was about teaching his daughter the strength she didn't yet believe she had. After she calmed down, Nathan took her into the garage, where old training mats were still rolled up from his SEAL days. "Madison," he said gently, "I've taught soldiers to face the worst. But now it's time I teach you. You don't need to fight to hurt others. You need to fight to show them they cannot break you." The next few weeks became a transformation. Nathan trained Madison every evening, not just in basic self-defense, but in confidence. He taught her how to control her breathing, how to meet someone's eyes without flinching, how to walk into a room with her shoulders back. He reminded her of her worth every single day. At first, Madison struggled, stumbling over moves and doubting herself. But slowly, something shifted. She began to smile more. She looked at herself in the mirror differently. The timid girl who once avoided eye contact was learning to face the world with a spark of resilience. Her first real test came sooner than expected. One afternoon in the hallway, Kayla and her friends cornered Madison again, shoving her against the lockers and laughing at her new jacket. This time, instead of shrinking away, Madison stood her ground. "Enough," she said firmly, her voice steady. The girls laughed, pushing her again, but when one of them reached out to grab her arm, Madison instinctively blocked the hand and stepped forward. The sharpness in her eyes froze them in place. She didn't have to strike back or scream. The confidence alone sent a clear message. Students nearby who witnessed the moment murmured in surprise, realizing the shy girl wasn't so easy to break anymore. Word spread quickly. The bullies tried again a few times, but it never felt the same. Madison's new confidence made their insults fall flat. And then came the day Nathan decided it was time for them to face a different kind of lesson. With permission from the school, he organized a self-defense awareness seminar for all students. When he walked into the gymnasium in his Navy SEAL shirt, silence fell. This wasn't just someone's dad, this was a man who had seen combat, who radiated authority. But instead of lecturing, Nathan began by introducing Madison. With trembling steps, she stood before her peers, no longer hiding. Together, father and daughter demonstrated techniques, but more importantly, Nathan spoke about respect, courage, and how real strength wasn't about humiliating others, but about lifting them up. The bullies who once mocked her couldn't meet her eyes. They watched as the same girl they had pushed into silence stood tall beside a man who embodied discipline and honor. For many students, it was a wake-up call. Some even apologized afterward, awkwardly mumbling words they should have said months earlier. For Madison, it wasn't their apologies that mattered. It was the fact that for the first time she felt seen, not as the shy girl in the corner, but as someone who had found her voice. Weeks turned into months, and Madison's transformation only deepened. She joined the art club, made new friends, and even began tutoring younger students who struggled with shyness like she once had. At night, when her dad checked in on her, she hugged him with a strength that said more than words ever could. She understood now that bravery wasn't about never feeling afraid. It was about facing fear head on and refusing to let it control you. The lesson Nathan had hoped to give his daughter became something much greater. He hadn't just taught her to defend herself, he had taught her that dignity cannot be taken, only surrendered. And Madison had decided she would never surrender again. In the end, the bullies faded into the background, but Madison rose into the spotlight of her own story. And as she walked through those school halls, head held high, she carried not just the strength of her father's training, but the unshakable truth that she was worth respect, and that was the most painful lesson her bullies could ever learn. The cafeteria floor was sticky, the air buzzing with laughter and chatter, but all Madison Jameson could hear was the pounding of her own heartbeat. Her tray lay overturned on the ground, mashed potatoes smeared across her floral dress. Above her, Kayla Henderson and her friends howled with laughter, pointing and snapping pictures with their phones. The sound felt like knives stabbing into Madison's chest. For months she had endured the teasing, the whispers about her pale skin and her quiet voice. But this public humiliation in front of hundreds of students, it broke her. She knelt down, hands trembling, scooping up bits of food while tears blurred her vision. The laughter grew louder. Someone shouted, "Smile for the camera, Grandma," and another voice added, "Send this to TikTok." The entire cafeteria seemed to spin, and in that moment Madison wished she could disappear into the floor. She didn't fight back. She couldn't. That night, she sat at the dinner table, pushing her food around her plate. Her father, Commander Nathan Jameson, noticed. "Madison," he said softly, "what's wrong?" She tried to hide it, but when he looked into her eyes, she broke. The words came in a rush. How Kayla and her friends tormented her daily. How they tripped her, shoved her, mocked everything about her, how she felt invisible yet constantly targeted. Nathan's expression hardened, his broad shoulders stiffened, his jaw clenched. Years of combat experience had taught him to control his temper, but nothing prepared him for the pain of seeing his daughter cry.